I'm Amber Alsobrooks. I'm here today to talk about stress for human intelligence. And
Hey,
Oh.
Amber.
Oh, hi.
Sorry I'm late.
Oh, I was wondering. But
If
glad
I was
you're
going to
here.
show up?
Glad you're here.
Yeah. No, I'm so busy and got so much going on. I had meetings. I had to get up at do some things at 7 a.m. meetings and stuff. So the family, I guess I'm stressed. But I've
Yeah.
got this.
Oh, okay.
And it's helping me.
Oh, that's great to know. So you have a tool in your toolbox then.
I do, and I thought that's probably a good idea to bring it to our discussion today, since you're a stress expert, and I could actually contribute something, maybe a little smiley face.
Great
So,
contribution.
it's working.
Thank you.
So, Amber, how do you define stress? I think I know when I'm feeling it, but how would you technically define stress?
That's a great question. And so I like to think of stress as when the demands exceed the resources, right? So if you are tasked with something and you don't have enough time, enough strength, enough energy, enough human resources around you, then that can be perceived as a stress, right? So if you need to make a deadline and you don't feel like you have what you need, that's stressful, right? But stress, as you know, stress, as you know, can definitely lead to a whole myriad of all kinds of horrible things that we are probably familiar with. So over time, increased unmitigated stress leads to increased risk of depression, anxiety, addiction, and also in the workplace, reduced creativity, productivity. A lot of missed work days are attributed to stress-related causes. And in the end, there's even a lot of causes of early death related to that.
I think I read somewhere that 75% of the ailments brought forward in a physician visit are actually stress-related ailments.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
That makes sense. It's a little bit scary, but when I'm stressed, I think I know the source of it. But what are some sources of stress? Maybe some things that we don't even realize might stress us out.
Okay, so stress is all around us, but I do want to put a little plug in for the positive side of stress as well, and I think it's really important. So stress, while we know about all these negative things and we think, let's just avoid it at all costs, it actually, if you avoid all stressors, then you won't grow. Just similar to if you're doing weight training. If you add weights, your muscles will grow, and it may not feel good in the present, may not feel good the next day or 2 days if you're like me. But stress definitely can have a positive, and the difference comes usually between whether we perceive a stressor as a threat or a challenge, right? And so stress can be more of a neutral word. On the positive side of this, and I'll just give the example too, with the muscles were a good one, but pressure creates diamonds, right? So when we are presented with something that we see as a challenge, you may have the initial same physiological response. Remember you said, I think I know when I feel stressed. So those feelings actually can kind of give you the oomph that you need to get through a Facebook Live presentation or get to work on time, or really kind of open up creativity so that you can think about new ways to solve problems. It can give you a great advantage if you're doing a pitch for a client. You need those same feelings that you feel. It's the same physiological response, but when you think about those as a challenge versus a threat, the outcomes can actually be quite positive.
So it's motivation, and you can use it. It occurs to me that maybe it's good if it's not continuous. So it's sort of like taking Advil or Tylenol. If you keep on taking it, it's bad for you. But I guess thinking about all the different sources, what are some ways that it manifests itself as far as effects? Like how does it show up?
Okay, so stress can show up in a lot of different parts of your life, but I like to kind of use the cognitive behavioral therapy model, CBT, where you look at 4 different areas of ourselves or our being. So we have all of these things interact with each other. So when you feel that physiological automatic response that we know is a stress response, right? Your heart starts racing, your mouth might get a little dry, you need to go to the restroom. Not that that's me or anything, but so when these things happen, that's a physiological response. And then the other piece is your behavior, your cognitions, and your emotions. All four of those things interact with each other. And so when you feel that response in your body, you might think, oh my God, here I go, I'm gonna lose it. I'm not gonna be able to remember what I'm supposed to say. I'm not going to make it on time. My client's gonna leave, whatever. Or you can think about those things differently and have a different outcome, and your body will respond in kind. Your behaviors then respond in kind. And then your emotions, instead of feeling more angst or anxiety, you may feel kind of excited in a good way, motivated.
So, in a way, if you train yourself, you can have a mindset that puts stress aside, or employs it as motivation and then discards it when you don't need it, at least to a certain degree.
I think everything's to a certain degree, for sure. But so I think what we learn to do is harness these things as a challenge that is positive. And so sometimes that requires that we at first recognize our kind of common filters, right? I think a lot of us have these ways of seeing things, these lenses, right? That can actually manifest itself in ways that we react differently to situations. So for example, you see me, we're at the mall, right? You see me across the way and you're like, hey Amber, you remember me? And I turn the other way, okay? So what might you think about that?
That you really have something that you want to go purchase, and no.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Right. So that actually would have a different reaction in your self-talk, your behaviors, and your body versus, oh my God, she hates me. Clearly she was ignoring me because I was late to our interview, right? She's still angry about that.
That was just a gag, though.
Yeah. Just for the record. So if I go the second route, the way I think about that, then the next time I see you, I might be cold to you. And then our relationship stops, right? We have no more interaction. There's no more like partnership or camaraderie. And in the workplace particularly, oh my goodness, how we think about other people's reactions, not just maybe that person's having a bad day. I know their daughter's been sick and the dog ran away this morning, like thinking that other people's reactions are because of you or directed towards you then changes your behaviors. Right? You may not work well together on a team, and it changes your emotions. So you may then start to feel angry, which then reinforces this kind of negative physiological stress reaction. So all of those things kind of work together, but cognitions, I think if you had to pull out one of the four, cognitions are king or queen.
So we're kind of talking about like what we can do with stress here, or we're kind of getting into that topic. I have to admit, I did a little research because, I didn't want to be so stressed coming into this. So I did a little preparation, and I read an article where someone recommended that every 4 to 6 hours you stop and talk face to face with somebody you like. I thought that was pretty interesting to kind of keep down the stress, to have this positive interface with somebody else.
I really like that. It actually serves two purposes. One is you're exchanging kind of energy with another person, right? And we're social creatures, and so having a positive social interaction gives us a boost, keeps things more positive. The other thing is, one of my favorite books is The Power of Full Engagement. It was written by sports psychologists, is taking a break, right? If you're a professional basketball player, you may have...
Not me.
Not me either. But you think about these people, their bodies are fine-tuned to perform, and yet basketball has timeouts, right? There are there's halftime, there's all these breaks, and then before a free throw, for example, a person may have a pattern that gives them a break. They dribble twice here and there. And so those things applied to work life, same thing. Breaks are really important because let's say you're working on a project that requires a lot of cognitive engagement. Without those breaks, your productivity is going to start to go down. So that's a great piece of advice. Thank you.
Sure. What are some other things we might be able to do? I mean, I know stress balls, right?
Yeah.
It's maybe the first thing that most people think of.
Yeah.
is there are there any other tools? So, and I think we're probably getting close to our time. So, are there maybe 3 or 4 things, or a couple things you would leave people with?
Well, I just want to remind people that in order to maintain this balance to where you feel like your resources can meet the demands, we can't say enough about the health and wellness, right? Exercise, sleep. Why do we have this thing where we're trying to one-up each other on how little sleep we got? I'm not sure. That's not good. Nutrition, also mindfulness. Mindfulness actually draws our attention to what's going on without judgment. So then it can help push away those cognitive filters, and also allows us to take a break. It reduces this kind of physiological response, and also rethink stress in a different way. Again, I can't say enough about this. In my blog, I'll put some resources in there, but there are studies that show that actually it's how we perceive the experience of stress that actually have more to do with early causes of stress-related death.
Wow.
Than just the stress itself. So learning to find ways to think about things differently, recognizing your cognitive filters so that you can remove those to a certain extent, and reach out to other people. One great way to increase your resources is networking and taking those breaks with someone positive. And also you can call a therapist.
Well, I want to thank the audience for tuning in and watching this today, and I really want to thank you, Amber, for taking your time to come down and see us, and me and the ball. And I want to tell everyone out there, just stay tuned for more from Human Intelligence, and thank you.
Thank you.